The series begins with a scene of 17-year-old Lee celebrating close to a waterway with her companions, yet at the same time feeling forlorn in the group. To fill the void inside her, she drinks vodka and moves indiscreetly. During this time she too approaches the street pharmacist from her bunch and requests a few additional medications to get high, yet to her disappointment the seller declines to give her, seriously referencing that she as of now appears to be extremely inebriated. Baffled, she subtly takes a parcel from the vendor's pack and heads to a close-by riverbank to utilize it later. Arriving at there, she jumps out the inebriation pills from the parcel and prepares to take it in a go anyway. Before Lee can do so, she staggers on a rock and tumbles to the ground. In her outrage, she glances around and out of no place sees a human skeleton hand with a silver armband. Next she's seen at the police headquarters, where a female cop illuminates her that she's drawn out an extremely old case. The official additionally specifies that the skeleton that Lee coincidentally found may be of a man who passed on a few decades sooner. Inevitably, Lee's guardians show up at the station and take her home. This abrupt disclosure rattles Lee. What's more, she imparts the experience to her companion Romaine prior to heading to sleep. Shockingly, Lee awakens as Ismail, a young person from an Arabic-talking family. At the point when Ismail changes the dress, his armband falls on the floor, and here we get to realize that it's Ismail's body which Lee viewed as before, and he still wears the silver wristband. When Lee endeavors to make sense of the circumstance for Ismail's family, just Ismail's more youthful sibling Sufyan trusts her reasoning. She's a trespasser notwithstanding Ismail's arranged work on the family plantation that daily convinced Sufyan to make a interruption, permitting her to get away, and arrived at the riverbank where she found the skeleton. Tragically, while she's leaving, a kid named Pi detects her with the longing to get back to the waterway where everything started. Lee, who is right now in Ismail's body, attempts to bum a ride. After several bombed endeavors, two young ladies get her, however, they end up taking her to the city. Rather, Lee is astonished to see such obsolete structures in the city, and before long understands that she has time traveled to the year 1991. She later affirms it subsequent to checking a film banner from that time. After this second, Lee handles that she's in the past, unequivocally 30 years behind. Inclination to call her companion Romaine strikes. Be that as it may, when the call doesn't interface, she recollects that Romaine wouldn't have been conceived at this point. Unexpectedly, when Lee is sitting troubled at PCO, a lady named Patricia perceives her as Ismail and gives her a ride to her home, which looks exceptionally old-fashioned. Lee sees her grandparents. Furthermore, guardians there when they were a lot more youthful. She attempts to make sense of her circumstance, yet they expect Ismail is essentially high as opposed to paying attention to her. They sent her around to try out with Patricia. Furthermore, give her an electric guitar. Lee doesn't have the foggiest idea how to play, and the tryout self-destructs. All of a sudden, Ismail's father shows up to return him to the plantation at Ismail's home. Sufyan is vexed, since he accepts Ismail deceived him into going to the music tryout for Patricia. Lee battles to persuade Sufyan that she's not actually Ismail. Later, while sitting on Ismail's bed, Lee goes over Ismail's scratch pad filled with melody verses for his band Quantic Predetermination. Seeing Ismail's enormous dreams for the future, she finds it hard to trust he would have ended his own life. She then chooses to cover the scratch pad in a separated spot at the plantation, later covering leaving Pi when she's about shows up on his motorbike, and they get into a warmed contention since Lee left the plantation work without illuminating him prior. The plantation has a place with Pi's family, and he deprecates Ismail and his father in any event, conveying intimidation. Shaken Lee gets back to Ismail's home for a shower. She chooses to investigate some masculine sentiments while possessing Ismail's body, prior to getting back to her own present-day self. The following morning, Lee finds out about a meeting with respect to the body she found. She asks her companion, Romaine, to cover for her in way of thinking class so she can go to the plantation where Ismail used to work there. She figures out how to uncover the buried journal and understands her activities in the past while in Ismail's body have affected what's to come. She makes sense of the entire circumstance for Romaine, who accepts Lee may go through a capricious episode together. They go to the gathering about the expired body. Amazingly, Lee perceives the body as Ismail Plateau Odin. Because of the silver armband he wore, Lee likewise unhesitatingly expresses that it was anything but a self-destruction. The senior Sufyan ends up being vexed, since his mail was recorded as absent. Also, he accepts the police haven't taken it truly because of racial inclination. Sufyan says thanks to Lee for making some noise, and she attempts to cause him to trust that they've proactively met before, as she helps him to being remembered to remember as an intruder. In the interim, Karine, Lee's mom, is rankled by her little girl's way of behaving at the gathering. Coming back home, Lee questions her mom about his mail. Kareem uncovers that she knew him, however wasn't close. Karine likewise asks Lee to keep what she found hidden from her dad, which intrigues Lee more. That evening, Lee heads to sleep contemplating Ismail's circumstance and awakens as her own more youthful mother the following day. Upon awakening as youthful Karine, one of the first things Lee does is investigate her things. She is astonished to find a container containing weed and a photograph of Ismail in it. Among the things there's likewise a drawing depicting two guitar players, likely Karine and Ismail. Close by, words about a future condo in Paris. This riddles Lee, leaving her profoundly baffled about her mom's association with Ismail. Later at school, Lee goes as Karine and is invited by Stephanie, otherwise known as Stuf, with a kiss, showing their heartfelt connection. Right then, Ismail shows up saying sorry for the earlier day's tryout botch. This proposes that Lee, presently in Karine's body, is encountering the day after her time in Ismail's body. Ismail accepts his inordinate weed utilize impacted his memory and disposition the other day, leaving him with just divided memories. During school hours, Lee, acting like Karine, welcomes Ismail to skip class, expecting to examine their future together. The last option concurs, yet he has various goals. Ismail takes her to Patricia's vinyl store, where he performs on the guitar and sings before Patricia. As another tryout, Ismail's melody, Our Secret, conveys that he's not permitted to want somebody an opinion Lee construes may be about Karine. Patricia is dazzled and agrees to their primary show. With the rush of their accomplishment, Ismail takes Karine to Pai's family weed ranch to take some weed. In the midst of Pai's objective practice with coke jars, they figured out how to slip through the cracks. At first, Ismail effectively grabs a taken weed, yet Lee gets hit by pellets later. Pai sees them. Luckily, no real slugs are involved before they escape. Pai provokes Ismail to a one-on-one battle at the skate park the accompanying day. Both Lee and Ismail advance toward the waterway, while their Lee notification and Edge tryout tape for the English Imperial Foundation of Music in London in Karine's pack. She pays attention to it and afterward appreciates swimming with his male during their time together. Lee begins to feel areas of strength for a fascination towards Ismail, driving her to kiss him. Anyway, Ismail delicately makes sense of that. They're simply companions. After getting back to Kareen's home, both Lee also Ismail share the intriguing news about their primary show with Stephanie. Lee recommends that Stephanie come to Paris with her and Ismail, yet he declines as the need might arise to assume control over the town's relaxation place after Ismail leaves. Stephanie questions Kareen about an expected undertaking with Ismail. Lee quickly denies it, however Stephanie's desire and outrage heighten, causing him to punch a wall. This denotes the first time Lee saw her dad's extreme desire at home. Lee appearances issue with her grandma or Kareen's mom for not presenting the Edge tryout tape. That's what anyway her grandma demands. Kareen ought to basically attempt to succeed. That evening, Lee presently living as Kareen goes to rest and awakens as herself in the present day. In the following scene, Lee sits down with Stephanie in the shed and inquires him about his mail's vanishing. Stephanie is at first reluctant, yet in the long run shares that they last saw is mail during a sound check at the World Live concert. He additionally makes reference to that in spite of getting ready for the show, Ismail didn't appear. Stephanie states Ismail took areas of strength for a drug the prior night, yet doesn't know who provided it. Lee rapidly sorts out that Pi may be the one given his relationship with selling weed. After the discussion with her father, Lee discussions to Romaine, who's going to go out with their companion Dora, prior to falling asleep. The following morning, Lee awakens with sickening dread, as Pi, another young lady, is additionally in bed with him. However, Lee can't recall her, the young lady. A piece Plump is baffled with Pi's absent-mindedness and leaves through the window, leaving Lee uncertain of how to fix the circumstance. Anyway, her center remaining parts on changing the future and saving Ismail. Realizing there are just 4 days left until the World Live concert. On the transport ride to school, Lee cooperates with Pi's companions, depicting a more EXP